Okay, so it's 8:01, so we will get started, and I think some of it, I heard the door open, so some other people I think are coming in. Awesome. I'll stand up here in just a second, but Kenny is not here. It's just me today, which I've been texting him, telling him he's not allowed to not miss another one because he's my tech support. But I'm gonna try to run this and run that. So for those of you on Zoom, welcome. Again, my name is Natalie. Most of you know me. Here, I'm gonna put this up here so that people in the room can see you guys too. So we will do introductions, and I will go ahead. We'll start with the people on Zoom. So probably what we will do, since we're going to talk about holidays, even though it's in September, say your name, your business, and your favorite holiday. So we will start with that. So Stephanie, do you want to go first?
Oh, put me on the spot. Sure. Hi, Stephanie Lehman, CNS Business Services. I like all the holidays. Favorite one, probably Thanksgiving, because
Awesome.
all the good food. I mean, it's obvious, and I love fall. So
perfect. Thank you. Okay, Alex, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is Alex Bobbitt. I'm with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Out of all the holidays, I'd probably have to say Christmas. I love the music and just spending time with my family.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, Ashley?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, my name is Ashley Smith. I'm from Covenant Chiropractic and Wellness here in Jeff City. My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, just because I think it's one of the best holidays just to give thanks for so many things. So I'm definitely a fall person too.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, Bryn?
Yes, good morning. My name is Bryn Thorsten, and I'm with Central Bank. And I am, let's see, favorite holiday? I think I really like Christmas. I think that's my favorite.
Awesome. Okay, Heather?
Heather McGee, JCMG, and I have this thing where anything after September all the way to mid-January is what I call Holly Jolly Heatherland. So I love them all put together, but I am obnoxiously holiday oriented. So, but if I had to pick, Christmas.
Awesome. Okay, Shara? I see that it came off mute, Shara, but I don't think we can hear you. Okay, what about Tiara?
Hi, I'm Tiara Safir. I'm a project coordinator at Council for Drug-Free Youth. And favorite holiday, I would say Thanksgiving, because my mom comes in town and she cooks, and I love her cooking.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so let's go around the room because I think I got everybody that was on Zoom. Okay.
Renee Deagle on One Outdoor Solutions in Longfellow's Garden Center and Virgin Companies. I just say Thanksgiving because it's not about presents, it's just about giving thanks and being a family. But then I would also say 4th of July because that's when I think everybody really gets it kind of right. People focus on the right things.
Awesome.
I'm Amy Rogers. I'm with the Homeless Task Force of Jefferson City and Project Homeless Connect. And I would say that my favorite holiday is probably a toss-up between Halloween and Christmas, just because I can dress up the house and be like a kid and nobody says anything.
Perfect. Nick?
My name is Nick Schneiders. I'm a Missouri Hills Wealth Management, and my favorite holiday would be Christmas.
My name is Megan Boston. I go Hopper Bank. Holiday is
Perfect.
may or may not have all decorations.
It's after September 1, it's allowed. That's nice. If pumpkin spice can live out right now, then so can our Halloween decorations. Awesome. Okay, so we will go through and start this. I'm hoping that this goes the way I want it to. All right, usually Kenny start this part. Okay, So as we kind of go through and talk about this, I know it always feels super early when we're talking about the holidays in September. However, it's super important for us to kind of get started with this because there's so much planning and strategy that goes into your holiday marketing. So why do we really need to plan for it? Okay, so obviously life's gonna get busier. We all know, especially if you go to any kind of events that happen in this community, even the last week has been bananas. So things are already picking back up, especially this year as we come off of COVID. Things that usually happen in the spring are happening now in the fall. So just knowing that things are gonna get busier. So if you give yourself more time, it's gonna be a lot easier to come together for this. Obviously also, so social media is always, we call it noisy, right? You think about everyone who's advertising on social media in the holidays. It's big brands, it's little brands, it's community stuff, it's fundraisers, people are trying to sell stuff. There's so many businesses that make their entire year financially during the next couple months. That's why things keep getting earlier and earlier. You know, Amazon does their Amazon Prime Day in July now, and that's their sales are better than Black Friday. So things happen sooner and sooner and sooner. And so keeping that in mind that you have to be super strategic with your plan because you're competing with a lot of things. Now we're lucky this year, it's not a huge election year like last year, because then we were competing with all of that, but just knowing that it's hard to be seen or heard. Turning it on is the first step. Okay. And also, it's just easier to be creative when you're not rushed. When you're already kind of thinking now about what your stuff's going to be around Christmas or Thanksgiving or Halloween, it's easier to kind of think of those ideas and have time to implement them, rather than you have this great idea and you're like, oh crap, we should have done that, but it was yesterday. So, hi, come on in. So it's super important to really think about that and get started now. So the first thing we're going to kind of touch on is Facebook events, because it's not a topic that we've really talked about a whole lot. And there's some great ways that you can use Facebook events specifically for your holiday marketing, but really all year long. So obviously it creates excitement for your sale or your event. So if you are a brick and mortar and you are selling something specific, you can create an event for like your sidewalk sales or your holiday events. If you're a nonprofit, I always recommend that you create events for Giving Tuesday, because then it reminds people that Giving Tuesday is happening. But then other things that you have going on. So a lot of times we think of events where it has to be something specific where people come to you, but with the way the world has changed in the last year, that's kind of been different, and Facebook has kind of given some other options for how to do events that don't necessarily have to be like a physical gathering event. The thing that I like about it the most is it lets people know on Facebook, they can see like who friends are attending, which friends are attending with them. So there's a lot of times, there's a lot of times where people will say they're going to an event, and you can see what other friends are going to an event. And so I'll get on there and message my friends. I'm like, oh, are you going to this? Let's go together. Let's do this. So that's a great feature. I also really like the reminder that it sends. So when you mark that you're going or interested, usually it's like a week before the event, and the day of the event, you get a reminder that's like, hey, don't forget this event is happening. And so that's always helpful to kind of jog people's memories, especially if it's an event that is free, so they didn't like buy a ticket to get to. So they're not as invested, so it kind of reminds them how to do it. Same with sales, that kind of thing. So here are just some best practices for Facebook events in general. Making sure that you have a unique name. So don't just say like holiday sale or fall fundraiser, because if you search that on Facebook, 17,000 other fall fundraisers pop up. So just trying to be unique with your name, be creative with it. At the very minimum, making sure you put like the name of your business or your organization in it. That way people can search it that way. Making sure that you have a full description. So a lot of times this is the only way or the only place that people will get information, even though most of us have websites and put things on our websites, people won't go there. So making sure that you talk about what the event is, you know, what's happening there, how much it costs if there's a cost, where they can order their tickets, all of the details, like filling it in and making sure that it's very, very detailed. I can't tell you how many times I've personally gone on Facebook to find an event of some kind, and there's no information. Like, it's just like the day and the time, and I'm like, well, what is it? What are we doing here? So just making sure it's very full and obvious. I mean, this stuff is kind of obvious, like where it is, where the tickets are, who can go, that kind of stuff. The other thing that I think I'm gonna start doing, I haven't recently, but Facebook has changed their event format. It's hard on the events now to see what time it is. Like, it's like Facebook has kind of hidden it. And so I think I'm gonna start adding like the time into the description as well, because just personally, it's become more complicated.
If you forget something, you go back in and edit.
Yes, I do that all the time.
And can I ask a question too?
Yes,
So
please.
most of the time when you do a Facebook event, I mean, if this, for example, if you're, like, we have something at Longfellows that you can go and you have to pay to do the specific workshop, but you'll put in the event and it'll say free, because there really isn't a ticket, you actually have to call to reserve a spot. And I always put the information about the cost, whatever, in all that detail. Is it better just to say ticket, because otherwise is it misleading for people?
I would say it's probably, if there's a way to do it with the ticket and then it gives an option of like, how do they buy tickets, and like put your phone number in or something. Just because it is confusing, and we've had that issue with fundraisers where we mark like the free option. Well, it's not free, you have to, but it's very confusing. So I would say to try out the ticketed option and see. Yeah. Yeah, so with editing, yes. So we do, for the library, we do a Facebook event for every single program we have, so 50 to 60 a month. So yes, there's lots of times where I'm like, ooh, that was wrong, I need to fix that. So one thing that I think is super important is to schedule events in advance. So you kind of see this is what it looks like on your dashboard whenever you do that. There's a couple of reasons for this. One, obviously, it lets people know about them, like what's happening further out. And two, is you don't forget. So I kind of go about it a couple different ways. At the library, because we're doing so many events, we schedule 2 weeks out. So like all of the events for 2 weeks I put up this week on our Facebook. But it may be something, if it's like your major fundraiser of the year, or your biggest sale of the year, or your biggest seminar, whatever the event is, and it's like the one thing you do, I get it up as soon as you have the stuff, all of the information. If it's the thing that like makes your year, you want it up as soon as possible. And then there's a bunch of different ways to kind of create a sense of urgency. So obviously, if you're selling something, you can offer early bird specials. You can limit the number of tickets, you know, especially again now in the age of COVID, where we have limited attendance for a lot of things. Set an RSVP date. So all of those things are important to get that sense of urgency, so that people are interacting, whatever it is, whatever your end goal is, whether it's purchasing something or attending something. It just kind of helps with that sense of urgency. Make sure there's no comments in here. Okay, so this is the other thing that I really like, especially within our community, because there's so many community events that overreach everyone. So adding co-hosts if applicable. So like this is an event that we do here at the library, or we do it here at the chamber with the library. It's called Business Solutions. This month we're teaching everyone how to build a website. It's next Thursday at 8. It's free, you should come. But so we always add the chamber as a co-host from the library, and then it shows up on the chamber page. So that's a great way to do it that helps reach a bigger audience than just your own. And I don't think I talked about this in here, but the other thing you can do, so for example, we just have the West Side Barbecue on Tuesday night. So any of our West Side members could have gone to the West Side page and added that event to their own page to help share it. So they weren't a co-host, but they were making sure that they were being seen on their page. So you have to do it from a desktop. You can't do it from your phone, but there's like 3 dots, and you just say, add this to my page. And so that's a great way too, if you're planning an event, like it helps reach more. Oh, hey, I did say that. Good job, me. Okay, any questions specifically about events? We wanted to kind of run through that and touch Kenny's not here this time. Does anybody online have anything? I'm trying to watch the chat, but it's kind of hard to.
I do, Natalie. I had a question, quick question.
Yeah.
If you have like sponsors for events, would you put them as co-hosts or?
I don't think it hurts to. It's kind of whatever, however the event is. So like, I'm trying to think of an example. They have the choice, like when you make someone a co-host, they have the choice to accept or not. So they can choose if it shows up on their like page or not. So I don't think it hurts to add the sponsors as a co-host. Especially if it's a sponsor that's like super involved in the planning of it. Like with the gala, like a lot of those businesses were also on the planning committee. And so a lot of them probably would have accepted it.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
When you're inviting people, showing who's been invited, who's accepted, is what's the best practice as far as showing the world who is there, like who has accepted, is interested?
I always leave it as public. I don't know. I think there's a way you could change that where you don't show the guest list, but I just always leave it as public.
That's not okay.
Okay. So we'll move on a little bit now and talk about just some other holiday tactics as we kind of go into this super busy season. So some content suggestions, and this is what I always like. I like having like a list of things as we kind of go into this, of like ideas that I can start. You know, you can start creating content for this right now and save it for then. Just don't lose it in your phone like I've done before. A really simple way is just to use holiday themes. So like this is a picture of the library from Halloween, and I literally went in Canva and found all the little Halloween stickers and added it to the picture. Like it's super simple, and I think we did this a couple of years ago on Halloween and just said, have a safe Halloween. Like if you sell a product, it's easy to kind of add overlays to it. You know, you think about as we get to winter and like snow and that kind of stuff. So just kind of making your photos and your images look festive is an easy way to make your content stand out a little bit more. Obviously, humor always helps. This is my favorite image. I will post this every single year on Thanksgiving for a variety of reasons. One, it's funny, and two, people love to participate. So on a time of the year when it's hard to get people to interact with your page, this is the easiest post in the world. So I think it's funny. And we always put a thing on there. We're like, keep it clean and not political because we're a library and I don't want to moderate all that. Like, but it's a fun one. The other thing, getting your staff involved. So we have done this for a few years. We have lots of members on staff who like to bake and like to cook. And so they give us their recipes, and we have just a generic image that our graphic designer created, and I copy and paste the recipe into this little recipe card, and we'll post it. So finding ways. The important thing to remember as we go into the holidays is it's not all about selling or fundraising, whatever your kind of goal is. You want to have these engagement type posts because it helps people comment, interact with your page, boost the algorithm, and then they will see the other posts where you are asking them to buy something or fundraise or whatever. So really keeping that in mind as you do it. It's super beneficial. And it's just fun. Like personally as a marketer, like right now we're headed into my favorite season of marketing because I just think it's fun. Like there's so many things you can do. People love the holidays. It's all festive in some way or another. So thinking of those fun ways that are just a little bit different. And you know, these recipes and stuff, we don't really do any other time of the year. Like we will always post recipes for the next 4 months, and then I don't really do it any other time. So, and then crowdsourcing tips. So there's great ways to ask your followers different things. So you can ask them, how do you cook Thanksgiving turkey? Or, you know, anything like that, where it's like, you know, when do you put your Christmas lights up? Thinking of that stuff. And a lot of times here, as we go through and ask everyone their icebreakers, those are always good questions to use on social media too, because people have opinions about that stuff. And they want to tell you what their favorite Christmas cookie is. They want to tell you their favorite holiday or their favorite donut or, you know, whatever that stuff is. So it's super beneficial, people, and it's quick. You know, you don't have to invest a lot of time into answering those questions on social media. Okay, and we're going to talk about this more because this is a new tool that I have discovered on Facebook and Instagram. But the special days to create content. So like last Sunday was Grandparents' Day. So luckily, someone wrote an article for the city magazine about what to do with grandparents in the community, and they happened to mention the library. So I was like, perfect, we're going to share that on Grandparents' Day. But there's all kinds of different special days that are coming up, and just using those to come up with content. A couple weeks ago was like National Beard Day. So for Newville Consulting, like I found a picture of Kenny with like huge bushy beard and made some joke about it being Beard Day. So coming up, using those to kind of jog your creativity is super helpful. So here are some ways, if you sell anything, here's some ways that you can definitely directly sell on social media. Creating gift guides. So this is great because you can do it with target your different audiences. So whether you're, you know, gifts for mom, gifts for your kids, gifts for your husband, or even harder things like gifts for the person who has everything, gifts for the person who doesn't need anything. So just thinking about the product that you sell and how you can make it a gift guide. You know, I'm maybe thinking with you guys with gifts for the person who doesn't want things, like they want experiences. Oh, we can buy a gift card and you can come do the plant party. And, you know, so there's all kinds of ways to kind of think about what you offer and how can you reach your audience in that way. It's super important to include a variety of price points because obviously there's some people who are buying for their kid's teacher and they're going to spend $20. And there's some people who are maybe buying for their mom and they're going to spend a lot more than that. So having those different price points helps sell that stuff as well. And if you're a nonprofit, create guides on how your followers can support you. So there's a way to do it where you're like, okay, $50 will do X, Y, Z, you know, whoever your target audience is. If you create homeless kits and it's like $50, we'll create 3 homeless kits and create that kind of thing, especially around Giving Tuesday, because that's kind of the nonprofit's day to shine of this season. But thinking about that kind of stuff is super important. Okay, automation, also important because obviously we also as marketers want to enjoy the holiday season and don't want to be posting everything the whole time. So scheduling posts ahead of time, very, very important. You can also create responses in Facebook Messenger for commonly asked questions. So for the library, we always get asked, how much does your program cost? Always. So I just have this and it automatically shoots them an answer, so I don't have to answer that question. And basically what it does is, if you've ever gone to a Facebook pages or a business's page, and you know how their messenger pops up and it's got like some pre-populated bubbles, those are bubbles that that company has set up. And so you can click on it and then it'll shoot the automated answer to it. So thinking about those things that people ask all the time helps where you're not having to like manually answer those questions. Okay, scheduling posts, do's and don'ts. We've talked about this before, but I always think it's important. Okay, do use Creator Studio to schedule Facebook and Instagram. So Creator Studio is one of the 17,000 dashboards that Facebook has to schedule posts. Kenny prefers Business Suite. I like Creator Studio. So I would say mess them and see what you like the most. But I like Creator Studio because I can also do Instagram as well. I can schedule stuff through Instagram on there. So if you're managing multiple platforms, it's helpful. And Facebook likes they like you using their native apps. So like if you like Hootsuite was something we recommended in the past before Facebook had a scheduler, and Facebook doesn't like Hootsuite as much and it doesn't show your content as much anymore. Make sure you stay active. And this is always hard. I think it depends on your business and your company and how, like where you are in the totem pole. Like at the library, I am paid to make sure I manage this stuff all the time. So even if I'm not in the building, like I'm still paid to manage it. So if somebody is causing an uproar on our Facebook page, I gotta deal with it. There's some people that are not paid that way. They are only paid if they are sitting in their desk at their office. And at that point, we always say that then the boss needs to be, somebody needs to be handling it and watching your social media channels. We've done lots of programs and presentations on that of what happens when people don't monitor and there's some kind of crisis and it just snowballs. So, and also being available to edit scheduled posts. It never fails where you schedule a post and you're like, oh crap, there's a typo in that. So like Facebook notifies you, like it'll say, oh, your scheduled post went live on blah, blah, blah page. So usually I just click it and look, just proofread it again and make sure I spelled something wrong or said something wrong or whatever. And then using a content calendar to keep everything organized. If you are in our Facebook group, it's Social Media Forum, JCMO Chamber. We have shared ours before. I just use a Google Sheet that I have laid out, and that's how I keep everything organized. So it just helps me. Okay, so what do you not want to do? Do not schedule posts about the weather, because it never fails. You will say it's rainy or cold or sunny or beautiful, and it will not be. So it's just best not to do it. Don't set it and forget it. Again, be aware of what's happening. When we went on a cruise before COVID, I remember I had staff members. I was like, I do not have Wi-Fi. You have to monitor this. So just making sure somebody is aware of things. And don't really just rely only on scheduled posts. That doesn't mean that you need to be like cultivating content, creating content when you're not like at work or not doing it. But sometimes things happen that are very, not necessarily a crisis, but like when I think of like the tornado. So when the tornado happened, we had all these scheduled posts because we had the huge Grow with Google event, and I had to go in and like delete all these posts and then on the fly be like creating maps and content and the streets are closed and all this stuff. So that's obviously a much bigger example, but things like that do happen that aren't like major natural disasters. Any questions or web comment or chat? Okay, so Brent asked, for Facebook events, where should the event content live? The event page or the main company page? So what I do, Brent, is I look at what it is exactly we're posting. So if the point of it is you're trying to sell tickets or sell something to it, I will put that on the main page of the organization or the business, but then tag the event so it pushes people to that event so that they get their reminders. If it's something more like I think about like the Hartsburg Pumpkin Festival, as you go up to that event, they always will post event or maps, details about the day, like things that you really only care about if you're going. Those are the things that I post within the event then. So I just kind of look at what that content is, and if I'm trying to push people to be at the event, or if I'm talking to people who've already committed to go, if that makes sense. Okay, is there a best practice for cross-promoting event content on your main company page? For example, we may think a sponsor on the event page, but then feel like we should share on the main company page as well. So for sponsors, I always do it wherever the bigger audience is, because I feel like if they've given money to support the event, then that's where that should be. So that personally, I typically will thank sponsors on the main page, like the company page and business page. I don't do it as much in the event. So. Okay, any questions before we move on to the next part? Okay, so we're gonna spend a little bit of time on this slide. I know it's kind of hard to see, but you'll be able to go into your own Facebook dashboard and look at it. So Facebook has released this in Creator Studio. And up here, you can see whenever you're looking at your pre-published now, which is your scheduled posts or your drafts. And they have a table and then they have calendar. So I always click on the calendar now, and I think this is super cool. So you can look at the month, well, you can choose the week or the month. A lot of times I will look at, this is the month view, this is the week view. And you can see when you have stuff scheduled or when you posted things. So that's helpful for me as somebody who creates a ton of scheduled and content for the library page. So I can like visually see what time things are going out, how many posts I have. Like this is a day where I created a bunch of events for 2 weeks out. And so you can see there's a whole bunch of posts that day. But you could just kind of like see what's scheduled. And I really like that. I still use the Google Sheet that's shared in our Facebook group, but visually I just like being able to like really see this and make sure that like the stuff I have needs to be there. And I also like that I can kind of look and see what times in an easy way. So I can see, okay, I mean, you'll notice from the library page, I schedule a ton of stuff at lunchtime and after 8 p.m. because that seems to be like, again, when you're thinking about when you schedule posts, when do you get on social media? I am on social media in the morning when I wake up. I'm on social media at lunchtime, usually 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm ready for my workday to be over, and then after Catherine is in bed. So thinking about your audience, if your audience is a bunch of parents typically, then don't schedule things at 7:30 because they are right in the middle of bath time, bedtime. They're not looking at their phones then. But if you're, I mean, and that's different. If your audience is like a bunch of 20-somethings who maybe they are looking at their phone then because they're home alone or, you know, they don't have social plans, that kind of thing. If you're trying to reach like retirees, 10 a.m. is awesome because that's when they are on their computers. So just kind of thinking about your audience and testing it out, try it and see a little bit. I did a post on the library page last Friday at like 10 o'clock at night, and Ken's like, we're doing a post now? I was like, oh yeah, let's just see. And it blew up. And I was like, oh, okay, 10 p.m. on Friday nights. That's a good time. Yeah, they're just like, you know, they're still awake. It's not a work night. So I really like this tool. Like I said, I just started using it probably in the last month, and it's helpful for me as a visual person to kind of see what's happening. Sorry, Kenny's also usually here, so I could take a drink. But.
And that is within Creator Studio. Just you.
Yeah. It's also easy. Like if I'm like, ooh, no, I want to do this post on a different day, you can just click it and drag it to the next day or a different day. So that, again, when you're scheduling a huge amount of content, little things like that just make the whole process smoother. So. Okay. So most importantly, have fun, which I know sounds silly, but social media is meant to be social, and the holidays, again, as a marketer, this is my favorite time. Like, I go back and look at like the posts that I've created in years past, and I love it. So now's the time. Have a plan. Obviously, be flexible as we kind of go into it because things you're planning now for October and November may not work then, but it's nice to have that stuff. The other thing that I've started doing fairly recently is saving things as drafts. So before I would like come up with content ideas and I would like keep a running list and I'd be like, oh, I'll need to create that later, or I'd create something and then I couldn't find it. So what I do now is when I'm creating content, I create the post. I put the caption in it, I put the image in it, I do everything. I just save it as a draft. Because then later when I'm ready to post it, I can go to my drafts and schedule that stuff at that point in time. So that's been super helpful. That's also helpful on a day when I'm feeling super creative and I can like crank content out, but I don't necessarily want to put the same kind of content out on the library page days in a row. And so I'll save it all as drafts. I know, Dan. Your face is like, yes. Okay, and not being afraid to reuse content from previous years. That ruined Thanksgiving in 4 years. I literally do it every single year. It's so funny. There's another one. It's always, I do it the Tuesday after a Monday holiday where it's the Mondayest Tuesday ever. People love it. They think it's hysterical. Every time we have a Monday holiday, I will use that post. So don't be afraid to reuse content. I wouldn't reuse it like every week or every month, but if you had some holiday content that did really well last year, use it again this year. It probably will do well again. A lot of that stuff is just super helpful. So. Put Kenny's email up there today. So, what questions does anyone have? What things you thought I was going to cover that I didn't that we could talk about?
I just stay up
On like the strategies of it and everything?
Facebook every day.
I am, yes. And I've also, like, I have a list of people, like other content creators who they do the research and I just know to follow them because they give the highlights. And part of it too, you know, you have to remember this is my job. So I do invest a lot of time into learning it and seeing what works and what doesn't work because it's what I do. So it's easier for me on Facebook. Like Instagram has kind of been the one where I'm like stepping out of my comfort zone and trying to learn that more because Instagram's a great way to grow your brand right now, especially with Reels, which Leslie talked about last month. So yeah, it's not all the time. Which is how I learned that the unfollow button is awesome because when people get too political and too angry about things and I have to be on social media all the time, I'm like, oh no, we're gonna mute you. I don't want to see that. It's much more enjoyable. Does anyone on Zoom have any questions on anything? Comments? No.
Natalie, as far as like Facebook events go, what's kind of like the sweet spot to like really get promoted, like, should, like 6 weeks out, 2 weeks out?
I think it depends on what kind of event it is. So like for Piccadilly for downtown, we push that like 2 or 3 months out is when we start because people, it's a more expensive event. People have to get a certain type of outfit. So you want to like give them time to do that kind of thing. At the library, we will post the event 2 weeks out, but I don't start pushing it until 2 or 3 days out. Because a lot of that stuff is things that people, like they'll decide at the last minute, like they'll just be like, oh, I think I'm gonna go to the library event today. If it's like a workshop or something, like you kind of have to think, okay, is this an event that people are gonna have to find a babysitter for? Are they gonna have to make a big purchase for it? That, you know, I'm thinking like workshops, you know, like the plant things you do. If you're targeting a lot of women, maybe they have to find childcare, or maybe they want to go with their mom, who's usually their babysitter. And so then I try to give them a little bit more notice. But a lot of times I will start with just like posting it, but then like, it's not something you want to push every day. So like when there's groups that have fundraisers, like say they're a mission-based organization. And so they are having a fundraiser though. And so all they're posting about for months before their fundraiser is their fundraiser. They lose their audience because their audience is there for the mission-based stuff, not necessarily just the organization or the fundraiser. So it kind of depends on what it is and how I do it. So. Right. Well, if nobody else has any questions, I'm happy to chat with people one-on-one if you do. Otherwise, we got done quick. I feel like this shows that Kenny spends about 20 minutes talking every time. Awesome. Thank you guys. Oh, Bryn, yes.
Oh, you just want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you.